Hello everyone, welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and in today's Cryptid Corner mini episode, today I have stories involving Mothman and the Bigfoot, particularly an alien Bigfoot seen on a UFO, folks. Both stories are truly interesting, so let's start off with the first article, named 7-Foot Bat-Winged Humanoid Encountered Beneath S. Laflin Street Overpass in Chicago's Pelson community. Let's get into this article, and once again, go back to Chicago. Here are some more details. Coordinates 41.85978 north, 87.66385 west. Location 1501 to 1649 South Laflin Street, Chicago, Illinois 60608. That's the location of the site, folks, so let's continue. In October 2019, a Chicago resident walking alone late at night through the Pelson neighborhood encountered something she could not explain. The brief sighting occurred beneath a railroad overpass near South Laflin Street location that has since emerged as part of a broader pattern of winged humanoid activity reported across the city. Years later, the memory remains vivid, unsettling, and deeply personal. Let's get into the actual account now. The witness, identified here as AP, was visiting her boyfriend at the time and had parked her vehicle nearly 2 blocks away from his residence in the Pelson community. It was late and the area was quiet as she walked toward the building, passing beneath the railroad overpass near South Laflin Street and West 16th Street. As she moved under the bridge, she paused briefly and noticed a tall figure standing beneath the structure. The entity appeared humanoid and stood approximately 7 feet tall. What immediately stood out were its wings. They were described as large, bat-like, and veiny, folded against their backs. The figure was facing toward the wall of the underpass and was not directly looking at her and did not move or acknowledge her presence. Despite the lack of overt aggression, the scene felt deeply wrong to the witness. She described an overwhelming sense of fear and unease. Disturbed by what she was seeing, AP continued walking toward her destination. When she looked back moments later, the figure was no longer visible. She is certain that what she observed was neither a person nor something easily explained. Several years passed before she revisited the memory. Curious and unsettled, she began researching unusual sightings in Chicago and was shocked to discover that numerous winged humanoid encounters had been reported throughout the city, including within a few blocks of where her own experience occurred. So she had no idea to basically explain what she had seen, folks. It was completely beyond what she could, or had ever experienced in her life, folks. AP was truly in doubt of what she had seen. Then she realized that more people had seen these figures. But why are they being seen? And what was this figure doing watching this wall, folks? It didn't care, at all about her seeing it, so why did it allow itself to be seen at all? Maybe there was a purpose for that, folks. But then again, as is usual with these cases, when she looked back after looking away and walking from it, when she did look back, it was gone. Which I'm not surprised, folks. But let's take a look at a few photos that were included with this article as well, folks. Here we have a picture of the overpass itself, and as you can see, she was walking right by it, and she looked down it, and she saw this thing looking, at the wall for some reason. Perhaps it was some sort of guard, and maybe it was looking at the wall because there was a portal there, and it was there to guard it. Or maybe it disappeared and it said portal that's in this area after this woman, AP, looked at it. Either way, here's a look at the area where she saw the entity from overhead from a satellite photo, folks. As you can see, you can only imagine how terrifying it would be to basically have an actual encounter with such an entity. I can only really imagine it, folks. But once again, we have to ask, why are they being seen? Are they some sort of aliens or interdimensional entities? Or maybe they've always been here, folks, and now we're only just noticing them. Or maybe they're letting their presence be known now. Either way, we have another similar article of other bizarre phenomena. Let's read it now as well. Hair-covered humanoid beings observed on hovering disc craft over rural Mississippi. Let's hear this story about alien Bigfoots and how they were observed wearing clothing and working on a UFO, which is very interesting, folks, so let's get into it now. In July 1973, 3 young brothers in rural Mississippi witnessed a low-altitude UFO encounter that unfolded in full daylight behind their family home. What began as a strange sound quickly escalated into a close-range observation of non-human beings performing what appeared to be maintenance on a hovering craft. The clarity and consistency of this account, remembered decades later, placed this report among the more unusual humanoid sightings of the early 1970s wave. Let's hear the account now, folks, from the brothers' own mouths, I guess, or from the witness. Hello, at the time of the incident, I was 4 years old. My two brothers were 12 and 14. We were outside in our backyard, moving dirt and playing, when my brothers suddenly heard a loud screech. Believing it might be a fast car passing nearby, they ran toward the front yard to see what caused it. When they found nothing, they returned to the backyard almost immediately after all three of us noticed a disc-shaped craft hovering low over the roof of our next-door neighbor's house. The object was silent as it hovered, appearing metallic and solid. A door on the side of the craft slid open. From inside, a short being approximately 3 feet tall stepped out onto a narrow catwalk that appeared to encircle the craft. The being was covered in thick, well-groomed brown hair. It wore a fitted coverall, not a bulky suit like those worn by astronauts. The smaller being walked a short distance to the right, then knelt down and opened a small access panel on the exterior of the craft using a handheld tool. It made a brief adjustment, then closed the panel and stood up. I did call this thing an alien Bigfoot, folks, but this thing, the entity wore coveralls and had well-groomed hair all over its body. While similar to a Bigfoot, folks, it certainly is a bit more alien than usual. But certainly, it's not as tall as basically a Bigfoot here, folks, so more along the lines of basically, say, a devil monkey, only this one appears actually civilized, if we're to believe that, folks, and not a screaming maniac, like from those reports I've read before, folks. Either way, this entity does sound alien here, folks, but was it, or does it have any relationship to Bigfoot? We'll theorize about that after we finish off the story. While this was happening, a second being appeared in the doorway and observed the activity. This individual was taller, roughly 5 feet in height, and similarly covered in brown hair. It was also wearing a coverall. Neither of them appeared to notice us, and there was no audible communication between them. After the smaller being returned inside, the door slid shut. The craft began to ascend slowly and steadily. When it reached approximately 100 feet above the ground, it accelerated almost straight upward and vanished from sight in one of, to 2 seconds. The entire event was silent after the initial screeching sound. None of the beings reacted to our presence, and we stood frozen, watching in complete silence. My brothers immediately understood that what we had seen was not human. At 4 years old, I had no concept of extraterrestrials, but I knew without a doubt that I had never seen anything like it before. I think at 4 years old, I think most kids would have figured out that this was aliens, folks. At least basically if you'd seen Star Wars or other sci-fi shows. But then again, maybe some people wouldn't figure that out. We'll discuss more about this after we finish off the article. Today, my oldest brother and I recall the event with nearly identical details. Our middle brother's recollection differs significantly. He was later diagnosed with schizophrenia, and his memories of the incident diverge greatly from what we both remember experiencing. W. Maybe he saw more due to his schizophrenia, folks. It's been said that people with schizophrenia, or other, mental or maybe extra normal abilities, maybe if they're geniuses, will see more. Maybe he saw something else there, folks, that was due to him basically being able to see something that his brothers could not. Maybe it was due to schizophrenia, or maybe some other issue, folks, or maybe the aliens were especially interested in basically showing themselves off to him, perhaps. But maybe something was seen during this experience, folks, that the brothers noticed but didn't, actively recognize, basically consciously, that maybe the middle brother, who due to the fact that he has schizophrenia, maybe recognized and saw. I'm just saying, folks, these brothers in detail describe the event, but that's what they consciously described. Maybe something else was going on. Perhaps these brothers were abducted even. Maybe the middle brothers' recollections are different because they decided, the entities who abducted them, or maybe put on this show for them, decided to do something different for him. That's what I'm thinking here, folks, but it's just something. Either way, along with the first story, folks, with this Mothman, we don't know why these entities are being seen or allow. At least in some cases, it feels like they want to be seen. Like with this case, folks, you'd think if these entities were basically doing work on their UFO, you'd think they'd land it in a place where no one could notice it. But here, it was like they were putting on a show, much like with the Mothman encounter that we read earlier, folks. Either way, we're at the end, so please go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics, they're bad for you. You can use the links down below or in descriptions to go subscribe to me. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Hit the part of the bell that'll give you all future notifications. And please share this video out. I am Chris Williams from the Scumdog's Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great video. So be sure to come back again then. Till next time, folks, I'll see you all again soon.